Yeah.
Hello, we're the News Bust.
And for our third segment, we've compiled four more very recent and very interesting stories. I'm Anel.
And I'm Nikita. Let's get started. So, for our first story, we're going to be talking about how vaccinating monkeys can stop a pandemic. Yellow fever kills some 15% of those infected, but has a very effective vaccine. Brazil may be trying to cope with the second highest rate of COVID 19 deaths in the world after the US, but the scientists fear that this other, far more lethal disease is in danger of erupting in South American country once again. Yellow fever infects some of 200,000 people and kills 30,000 of those each year, which is more than terrorist attacks and plane crashes combined. Caused by a virus spread between humans and primates via mosquitoes, its symptoms include severe fever, headaches, and in some patients, jaundice, which is the yellowing of skin that gives the disease its name. Severe cases can lead to internal bleeding and liver failure. Approximately 15% of people affected by yellow fever will die from it if unvaccinated, a death rate that's far higher than COVID 19. In the mosquito-infested forests of Brazil, the disease seems to jump particularly quickly between golden lion tamarin monkeys and humans. But while mosquitoes are the carriers, it is people who are making the situation worse. As humans encroach further and further into the forest, they reduce biological diversity and come into closer proximity with other primates. In 2018, Brazil's health minister announced a campaign to vaccinate nearly 80 million of Brazil's 210 million people against yellow fever. In some municipalities, as many as 95% of residents have been vaccinated, but in Brazil's biggest cities, the rate barely tops 50%. Many Brazilians don't trust their government's directives when it comes to public health. Corruption in Brazil is rampant, and even though the vaccine is administered for free, many Brazilians assume they're being told to get vaccinated so that someone else can profit from it. What's more is that there may not be enough vaccines to go around. The WHO has called on pharmaceutical manufacturers to increase production, but the vaccine remains constrained due to limited production capacity, according to UNICEF. As a result, barely half of the people living in Rio have been vaccinated against yellow fever. There could be another way, though. The world has 7.8 billion people, but only 2,500 golden lion tamarins. So stopping future outbreaks amongst humans could use a novel approach, vaccinating golden lion tamarins. Scientists believe that if you vaccinate the monkeys, you have less individuals that are carrying the disease. It's basic herd immunity. Yellow fever spreads when female mosquitoes bite humans or other primates infected with the disease, then bite and infect others. Once an epidemic starts, primate species have about 4 to 6 days in which they're viremic. Viremic means the virus is active, and mosquitoes which bite them can get infective. Monkeys thus become amplifiers of mosquito borne diseases. Today, they're amplifying the risk more than ever before. That's largely thanks to deforestation of their habitat by humans. Unless more monkeys and more people are vaccinated, health officials warn yellow fever outbreaks will get worse. By one estimate, Brazil will need 226 million doses of a human vaccine by 2026. Unless more monkeys and more, sorry, Unlike with COVID 19, we're ahead of the curve when it comes to yellow fever due to a widely available and effective vaccine. With the right funding and buy in, scientists say that we can stop the next yellow fever outbreak in Brazil before it even begins. Yeah. So, what do you think, Al?
Well, that's a very interesting approach. So instead of vaccinating humans, they want to vaccinate monkeys, which in
Exactly.
itself, you have to say it's quite intelligent. Like, that's quite clever in the way that there are way fewer monkeys than there are people. So I do think that they have a good idea when it comes to it. The only thing that I'm slightly concerned about is how are they going to manage to get all the monkeys? Like, it just, excuse me, it's just seems like quite a bit of work to get all the monkeys, whereas you'll have to capture the monkeys without their consent, obviously, because they're not going to be consensually going for the vaccine, like, oh, yay, let's get vaccinated for yellow fever. Unlike with humans, that you can actually tell them what's going on without having to force them down, maybe even sedate them to vaccinate them. That's my only concern, because the monkeys, they won't really know what's going on. They're only going to know danger.
Yeah. So, but like I feel like because they're like I feel like they should vaccinate not only monkeys, like not only like either they could choose. I feel like they have two options: either vaccinating monkeys in Brazil or vaccinating all the people in Brazil. which I feel like it's really up to them, like, to choose ethically which is right, obviously, but also because due to the low production of the vaccine, like, I feel like they have no other option but to vaccinate monkeys first and, try to prevent the vaccine from spreading as much as they can. And, maybe like try to like keep it, even if it starts in Brazil, try to keep it in Brazil only and not like, start another pandemic like the COVID-19, because I feel like, now that I feel like because due to China not being able to like make it like limited to only China, and it has spread all over the world. I feel like India is suffering a lot, because of the big population they have and everything. So they really have to think about this and the ethical choices and everything.
But even so, I feel like it's impossible to vaccinate all monkeys or to vaccinate all people, because no matter what, you're going to have some anti-vax people that are going to be like, I don't want the vaccine. And no matter what, you're always going to have one or two monkeys that are going to be like, we miss those guys, because they all kind of look the same. But I think that no matter what they try to do, there's always going to be one or two exceptions in the monkeys and then several others in the humans. So it's quite a difficult situation to be a scientist.
They have to measure like, which one's the best choice and like check it out.
Right, definitely.
So would you like to share your story now?
I would, thank you. Here we go. Dozens of Palestinians injured in police clashes as Jewish extremists chanting "Death to Arabs" march into Jerusalem. Clashes between Palestinians from East Jerusalem and Israeli police around the Damascus Gate entrance to the Old City erupted in a night of unrest that earlier saw Jewish extremists marching through another city shouting "Death to Arabs." These tensions began around a week and a half ago towards the start of Ramadan and prompted an unusual statement on Friday, the 16th of April morning from the US Embassy in Jerusalem, in which it called on all responsible voices to promote and end the incitement. Hundreds of Palestinians gathered in the area around the Damascus Gate on Thursday, the 15th of April evening to protest the closure of the plaza space in front of the gate, which is a popular place to hang out for young Palestinians, especially during Ramadan. While the police used stun grenades, rubber bullets, and water cannons spraying skunk water in an attempt to disperse the crowds, they were only met with glass bottles and rocks thrown back at them. At one point, a group of young men managed to break down a pole with a security camera mounted on top and set it alight, creating a temporary barricade. The Palestinian Red Crescent said that 105 Palestinians were injured, and of which 22 required hospital treatment. Police used their own barricades to prevent a march by hundreds of supporters of the Jewish extremists, Lahava movement, from reaching the same area. The violence of that started on Thursday night and continued well into Friday morning, with incidents reported across the city, including one captured on video, apparently showing Pakistani roots repeatedly kicking a Jewish man in East Jerusalem as he lies on the ground attempting to protect his head. Videos on social media show hundreds of people marching down one of Jerusalem's main street thoroughfares, Jaffa Street, towards Damascus Gate, chanting repeatedly, "Death to Arabs." Lahava has become increasingly bold by the recent elections to the Israeli parliament of several extremist racist politicians, all of whom have been openly courted by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in his ongoing attempts to form a new government. TikTok has also been a source of rising tensions over the last few weeks, as showing acts of assault, including one perpetrating to show a Palestinian youth slapping two religious Jews riding the city's light rail tram service have been posted. Another video appears to show religious Jewish youth attacking an Arab family house, throwing sticks and other objects into the compound while a baby can be heard screaming. Police say 20 of their officers were injured, 3 of whom were taken to hospital. Alongside this, police say that 44 arrests were made. In a noteworthy development, the US Embassy issued a statement on Friday morning in English, Hebrew, and Arabic, which said, "We are deeply concerned about the incidents of violence in Jerusalem over the last several days. We hope all responsible voices will promote an end to incitement, a return to calm, and respect for safety and dignity for everyone in Jerusalem." And that's the story.
what do you think, like, there was just one thing I was like confused about, like, what do you think made them, like, suddenly chant like death to Arabs, like, what, like,
Well, I,
pushed them to do that?
yeah, definitely. It might be because
Is it?
it might be because of their differing religions and their different views on religion, definitely.
And I
Because
guess that's during Ramadan, like, I guess having to follow like some kind of rules or laws
mhm.
made them, like, kind of fuel their anger for some reason. I don't see why though.
Well, it's just I think this has more of a religious. I think
Mm-hmm.
the starting of this is religion because this Ramadan is such a holy period for Islam, and I think that people who do not have this idea that it's okay to have different religions, it's okay to be different and to believe in different things. I think that not having this view would lead to some kind of riot as it did now and resulting in many, many, many injured people. I think that this is just an issue of people not being open-minded enough.
Yeah, and I think there's something to note that you said. You said that there was this video that shows religious Jewish youths attacking an Arab family. I think that's something that's very important because I feel like in like very religious families, parents they're not very open minded, and so their children learn from those parents, and they like they end up following that same path and not being as open minded,
Right.
and being confined to this one religion that they've been like living in, and so they're not being they're not trying to accept other religions and
Mm-hmm.
understand other sentiments. So I think it's very important for youths to understand and
Yeah.
change their ways and like try to blend in with other religions as well, like
Yeah, like
so.
we're all common people living on the same earth.
Mhm.
We just believe in different things. It's natural at this point. We need to learn to accept that more. Also, I think that having such an open forum such as TikTok and sharing such videos of violence would incite those who have been quiet, but but they still have this sort of resentment within them that they don't share. I think that seeing those videos and seeing people openly attack others gave them this sort of strength and empowerment to do the same, to instead of stay quiet by themselves, to go
Mhm.
out and be more open about what they believe. And even though they've negatively expressed this by more acts of violence, they did so because they were empowered to do so.
Exactly. I totally believe the same. Like, because TikTok is such a popular social media right now, like it's really hot and on trend. So, and people really like they pay attention to all the videos and everything. And, if this is something that's trending on there, I feel like it's something that's, they're trying to like reach out to other people. And
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to go for
Okay.
the third story?
Yeah, sure. So for our third story, it's about Sarah Voss's full bodysuit at the European Artistic Gymnastics Championships in Switzerland, which defied convention. Until now, women and girls have only covered their legs in international competition for religious reasons. Voss from Germany was supported by her country's gymnastics federation and said she was proud of her decision. We hope gymnasts are not uncomfortable in their usual outfits, will feel emboldened to follow our example, she said. The German Federation said its gymnasts were taking a stand against sexualization in gymnastics, adding that the issue had become an all the more important to prevent sexual abuse. Voss explained her decision in an interview. We women all want to feel good in our skin. In the sport of gymnastics, it gets harder and harder as you grow out of your child's body. As a little girl, I didn't see the tight gym outfits as a big deal. But when puberty began, when my period came, I began feeling increasingly uncomfortable. Under the rules of the International Gymnastics Federation, competitors are allowed to wear a one piece leotard with full length legs, hip to ankle, provided it is of elegant design. Dutch gymnasts have also praised the move. A spokesman told public broadcaster that judges had often deducted points when a competitor had tried to make her leotard more comfortable during the performance. Voss said that while she had never been abused herself, she and her colleagues were role models for younger athletes and wanted to encourage everyone to stand up for themselves. US gymnast Simone Biles, who was abused by jailed reports Dr. Larry Nasser, said last week that one reason she was competing at the Tokyo Olympics this year was to speak out and give survivors of abuse a voice. This is something to note is that Simone Biles is very close to retirement, and she was probably going to retire this year. And so her saying that the only reason she's actually going to go compete at the Tokyo Olympics is because of this, and because she herself was abused and has gone through it. She's going there to support this new movement and try to influence the younger generation to also follow their steps and go against the sexual costume that they have in their mind and the stereotype of women in gymnastics wearing those really tiny leotards and feeling so uncomfortable. Yeah. What do you think?
I think that I love what they're going for, because I feel like by wearing such a full body costume, they're showing themselves off more in a way without having to wear such tiny clothes. Because gymnasts have to show off their bodies in every sense to show off that they can just demonstrate themselves, because that is what the competition is about, to show off how much they can flip, how flexible they are, and so on. I feel like as you grow older in gymnastics, you see more gymnasts have strength, because they need a lot of strength to flip and to turn and to use, because they're always on their hands, and they're amazing in what they do. And so they grow more muscle and they have more muscular legs. And this doesn't fit in with the standard that women have pretty slender bodies with pretty slender arms and they're so graceful and beautiful and whatnot. And this, I feel like by wearing skin tight clothing on her legs, she's showing them off. She's showing off the muscle that she has, and she's proud of that. And that is such a beautiful thing.
Exactly. And even women, they're being they're in front of a big audience, especially something like Olympics and stuff. I can't imagine how it feels to be half naked, because they're wearing really tight and really tiny leotards, if anyone's ever seen them. They're their sleeve, short sleeves, or maybe and they're cut off, they're showing all their full legs and everything. And some people may not be comfortable with that, showing themselves in front of a whole big audience or on TV. And so I feel like people should have the option to wear a leotard without having their points deducted. Since when did it become a stereotype for women to wear tiny clothes for gymnastics and show off their body when they don't want to, even though it's in the rules that they don't have to? But according to some judges, they cut points off if you don't show off your body. So them wearing those full length clothes, I think it actually shows off the movements even more, and instead of limiting them in any way, I feel like it's actually much better for their performance, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree. It shows them off in a different light.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, would you like to go on with the next story?
I would. So our final story is the Delhi hospital issues SOS alerts over oxygen supplies as India COVID crisis mounts. Hospitals in India have been consumed by a desperate scramble for oxygen after the country recorded the world's highest total tally of coronavirus cases for a second consecutive day, pushing health services to the brink. Hospitals in Delhi issued SOS alerts on Friday, saying that they only had a few hours' supply of oxygen left and pleaded for governmental assistance, while social media was flooded with requests for oxygen cylinders shared by people seeking urgent care for their relatives. Special train services began moving tanks of oxygen from steel plants to the worst affected areas in the attempt to relieve the crisis. Shortages are also so severe that some states deployed armed police to guard supplies following reports of theft by desperate families. Hospitals across the northern and western India, including Delhi, were running out of beds and oxygen, according to officials and doctors. Oxygen will remain for another 2 hours, said Gangaram Hospital in Delhi in a statement on Friday morning. The hospital, which is treating 500 COVID patients, warned of an impending crisis. 25 people had died on its wards over the previous 24 hours, it said, adding that it feared another 60 of its sickest patients were at risk and urgent intervention was needed. Tankers arrived at the hospital with oxygen 2 hours later, providing temporary relief. By Friday evening, other facilities still had not received deliveries. Indian Spinal Injury Center, which was caring for 160 COVID patients, announced at 6 p.m. that only 30 minutes worth of oxygen was left. It had been waiting for supplies since Thursday night, it said. With hospitals overwhelmed and emptied of supplies, patients have been left with nowhere to turn. Halim Khan from Jhansi in Uttar Pradesh told The Guardian that she had been wandering around government and private hospitals for days searching for a bed for her 76-year-old mother, Nazma. In each hospital, dozens of people like us are struggling due to oxygen shortages. They were asking hospital authorities for help, but no one was listening to us, she said. Many private hospitals in the district told us that if you want beds, then you should provide oxygen yourself. She tried to contact private suppliers of oxygen, but failed to secure any in time. Her mother died on Thursday night, 7 days after she first developed a fever. Like me, hundreds of people are struggling for oxygen in Jhansi, she said. Parmar Mukherjee, a professor of biostatistics and epidemiology at the University of Michigan in the US, said it appeared that no social safety net for the public. Everyone is fighting for their own survival and trying to protect their loved ones. This is hard to watch, she said. As the crisis has deepened, states have accused neighboring areas of hoarding supplies. In an emergency meeting held with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the leaders of the worst affected areas, Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal questioned who could stop the tankers from being blocked on the way to Delhi. We fear a big tragedy may happen due to oxygen shortages, and we will never be able to forgive ourselves, he said. The virus has spread with unprecedented speed in India, with health experts blaming lax measures, political failings, and more infectious variants. On Friday morning, India reported another record-breaking daily caseload of 332,730 in the previous 24 hours. It followed news on Thursday that India had registered the highest number of infections in a single day in a country since the start of the pandemic. On Friday morning, nearly 2,250 new deaths were also announced. Here's just the curve that India is facing when compared to other countries such as the US, Brazil, Italy, and the UK. They're quite steep, to be honest. Man.
So, like at one point, after the first time like COVID had a spike in India, after that, it actually went really down. They were improving a lot.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it spiked up again because, and me being Indian and getting the news from all my family were there. We heard that a lot of people over there not wearing their masks, and they stopped taking care after the COVID cases decreased, and so they think that it's because people, they're not caring enough after the COVID cases suddenly went down, and so now Delhi has gone on lockdown again. And also even if people need oxygen and if they want to go to the hospital, it's not more about who's in serious danger or who really needs it. It's more about if you have connections at this point. If you have connections, you are able to get a hospital bed with oxygen and everything. But if you don't have any connections, it's very hard for people to get any oxygen, so they end up turning towards social media and trying to find any available oxygen tanks. Yeah.
You can see by both graphs that India had a small spike at the beginning of September, which almost immediately decreased. It's unfortunate that now in March, when the vaccine is becoming, when we're getting the vaccine and cases are starting to go down, that it spiked again. It's unfortunate, yeah.
Especially in India, because they have their own vaccine. We call it's the AstraZeneca vaccine that they made it with UK, and so they're actually they're giving it really quickly to all the people, the population in India. But the population is so big that it's if you look at the percentage, it's very small. But they are actually they've administered it to a lot of people in India, and so it's kind of it was actually a shock to us to see the COVID cases rising up again.
Would you say that because of this vaccine that people are relaxing more, and that's also a reason?
Exactly. Yeah, it's because of the vaccine, and it's also because of the low cases. Like, once the cases die down, like, people go like, oh, okay, it's fine now. Like, it's getting better now, and so they stop taking care, like, and they stop putting their masks on properly, and they stop, like, cleaning their hands and everything, and it kind of relaxing. And then, like, suddenly, like, obviously, because the population is so huge, and if someone gets COVID, like, if the COVID starts spreading again, it spreads really quickly as well. So yeah, I think it's just because of that, to be honest. And I know because they've gone lockdown again, and I know because, like, our prime minister, Delhi's prime minister, he's a good prime minister, and he actually, like, it's because of all his lockdowns that, the cases had come down before. And so I feel like because of the lockdown again, I feel like people are gonna start taking care again. But, it's just a little bit. It's a very high spike, so it's gonna be a little hard for them to come back to the level they were before.
It's going to take quite some time, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, we can
A
do
lot of
it
people
hope for the best, really.
exactly. Well, that was kind of a hard topic in the end, especially because I can relate to it. But I guess everyone just has to stay safe and take care.
Wear masks,
And
promote social
yeah.
distancing, wash our hands, do our part. Just do our part as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay, guys, subscribe and to stay updated on our next podcast, and see you again later.
We'll try and come up with a new one next week.
Bye.